So the thing I was going to say is, like, the tone of the movie that Rian Johnson set up, instead of, like, oh, we have to show his, like, bare chest to, like, show that what she can see, the tone of the movie, I would expect him to be, like, you know, on the can or something, just, like, taking a shit. And,
I know.
You know, because that's, like, how Rian Johnson treated the movie, like, you know what I mean? So...
And it's hard to imagine on the subject of Force Skyping. I think there's really... I don't want to say loophole, but it's hard to imagine Snoke saying, okay, I'm going to connect Kylo with Rey, but I don't know where Rey is. You know what I mean? I know that's it's kind of nitpicky, but at the same time, like, you're taking... You're
Yeah, well, the thing is that it's very muddy. Muddy is a good term because, like, Snoke is this all-powerful being that can connect these people across vast areas of the galaxy and knows all this stuff, but I don't know where she is, and, like, I had no idea he was going to kill me. Like, I don't know. The only precedent for that, I mean, it's terrible writing, but if you were, like, a Rian Johnson apologist, the only thing that you could do to try to save him, like...
Trademark pending. Yeah,
reaching out, like, oh my god, Ryan, I'm going to help you. Write this movie. Is that, like, in the original movie, when Luke goes with the rebels to Endor, the original movie, as if it's one movie, but in Jedi...
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi. Now,
yeah,
like,
he's called
it's
Jedi.
Not the only Jedi now. But anyway, so, like, when Luke goes with the band of people, Vader's like... And she, you know, the Emperor's like, I told you to stay on the command ship. What are you doing here on the Death Star? And Vader's like, Luke is, you know, the band of rebels. And he's like, I'm aware of the band of rebels. And like, Luke is with him. And it's like, really? Like, funny that you sensed that and I did not. So, like, the Emperor didn't know, like, didn't sense Luke there on the planet.
Right.
So he, like, saw this future prophetic vision of, like, Luke confronting Vader, and he knew that he would bring him there. But he was like, I don't sense him, even though he's right down on the moon. Like, so it's interesting. Yeah. So Snoke is like, oh, I didn't know Kylo Ren was going to kill me. So it's like... Now, Rian Johnson definitely did not think of that, and he would not, like, think... Because every time they give him an out, like, he can't, like, they'll be like, so, it's like, is Kylo lying to Rey about her parents? It's like, and he could just be like, well, who knows? You'll have to see part 9 to find... It's like, no! I wrote it like that dumb. Like, as stupid as you think the idea is, as boring as, like, the most boring idea, that's exactly how I wrote it.
That's it.
I'll leave no mystery as to my boring-ass story. You know? And it's like, why? Like, you have an out. You could just, like, be like, well, who knows? You know what I mean? That's, like, a real cheeky answer. And you just...
I used to like to think that somehow... It's either A, Vader and Luke and Jedi had such a connection that they sensed each other's presence, but the Emperor didn't. Or B, Vader blocked off the Emperor from sensing Luke. Possibly. But why would he do that just to deliver him to him on schedule, like, you know, and tell him? But it's I mean, but the Emperor says, strange that I have not, you know, or whatever. He says, So I like to think that, I mean, this is once again me giving Johnson a lot of credit where it's not deserved, but Vader blocking off the Emperor's vision of Luke similarly to the way Kylo blocks off Snoke's vision of himself getting chopped in half.
Right.
You know, like, the apprentice can still, you know, he's not completely submissive at that point. It's kind of like the writers of Return of the Jedi, they're foreshadowing just a little bit that Vader's not completely a puppet.
I think what happened was somewhere on a faraway planet, Yoda's ghost, because he had already passed by that time, Yoda's ghost was sitting Indian style and was like, I'm not going to go with the Force Lightning to the Emperor's Dome because he's too far away. My ghost can't make it there. But he's like, I'm going to project my, like, this power to block the Emperor, like, from wherever he is. And he's just, like, sitting Indian style and, like, his ghost is, like, shaking, like, this is hard to project this so far away. And he blocked it.
That's really why he died in bed. You see him doing it. You didn't know.
It sucks, though, because, like, technically that scene happened before. Or that would have been my joke.
He's just blocking
that's how Yoda died.
Obviously, he's blocking the Emperor from sensing Skywalkers.
Oh, yeah. So, like,
in general.
And that's why he's so tired and he ends up dying. Because it's like this continual blockage.
Yep.
It's like a blocked artery. But...
Poor Yoda.
Yeah.
People really hate the lightning thing. They really do. They're like,
I mean, there's a lot of things. It's just like the light speed thing. Because it changes all the strategy involved. And like, Luke, I cannot help you when you confront Vader.
Yeah.
Yoda could. He could shoot him with lightning.
But I can't.
But I'm not me.
I can't be.
I don't know the lightning thing yet. You know, it's just like it.
Maybe it's just coincidence that he put his finger up in the air and the lightning struck at the same time. Maybe Yoda didn't really do it.
Yeah, man, that is a great.
Just coincidence.
You know what? You're just mad that your fan theory, trying to apologize for Rian Johnson's terrible writing, didn't come true. That's what it is you're mad. You're like, oh, I've got this great fan theory explaining this dumb element that Rian Johnson wrote in here, and you know. That's not what Rian Johnson says, and so you're mad about it.
And I specifically love how, and I've talked about this before, you and I, but the fact that Luke is in his Jedi robes when Rey shows up. She shows up, throws a lightsaber over his shoulder. That sucks. Just move on. He then immediately goes into his hut and changes into some hobo black clothing,
which I didn't even notice. And I saw the movie twice.
It's jarring because it doesn't feel like the character would do the steps he did in the beginning of the movie, but he does it to fit the narrative of Rian Johnson as he sees Luke now. And then he puts the robes back on as soon as she leaves, just to ceremoniously burn down what he thinks are the last of the books, the Jedi books. So he puts them on. Almost because he's like, well, we don't want. There's so many forced things. I don't think I want Luke to be in his black hobo outfit and talk to Yoda. He should look like a Jedi, so he matches Yoda. So I'm gonna have him change just to fit my story. No particular reason, but he needs to look like a Jedi when he burns down the temple. But yeah.
You know what's interesting too? Like this is a point against something Mike Stacklasa said. You know, basically,
Red Letter.
Yeah, Red Letter, Plinkett. But or Plinkett 2 or whatever, because Rich Evans is the original Plinkett. But anyway, something he said about the prequels, where he's like, one of his gripes was like, oh, like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were wearing the same thing that Obi-Wan was wearing in Star Wars. Like, what if Obi-Wan was just wearing that robe thing? It's not a Jedi uniform. It's just he's just wearing it because, you know, he's out in the desert and he has to wear the long, you know, to prevent sunburn and stuff like that. And they're like, however, in defense of George Lucas, shockingly, against Mike Stacklasa, like, in Empire Strikes Back, Yoda is wearing the same goddamn outfit. That is just a tinier version.
Oh, yeah.
But he's wearing Ben Kenobi's outfit. So I'm like, oh, that is the Jedi thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows it in the original trilogy as the Jedi outfit. Just Luke doesn't wear it because he wears the black, you know.
And I've never thought of this or even knew about that particular angle, but to further your theory, like, Anakin as a ghost is wearing it too. So,
yeah.
I mean, I have the toy of you know, Anakin from the 80s.
Right, so like
they're all wearing
gripe,
it.
I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
like
Luke's the only one that never wears it. He gets cool black stuff, but
yeah. So that's, you know, one thing. Most of the things I agree with.
It's a little sloppy because the Jedi is supposed to be in hiding,
right.
But you can't really get much more hiding than they're already in very remote places.
Right.
There's not really there's normally not a presence of the Empire on Tatooine.
Yeah, it's an outer rim.
It's an outer rim. They're there to look for some droids that went missing. Right. And they're certainly not going to be on Dagobah. So you can dress like the old school Jedi. You can
they're only
you can let
there
it flow,
because
wear your old gear.
The consular ship took the long way to get to Alderaan because they didn't want to, you know, be seen. Oh, or as whatever Rogue One.
Oh, right.
To. I forget.
Did they ever explain the ambassador? Like, Rogue One could have easily been like, I'm the ambassador, you know, and he's like, and he misses the ship. You know, he misses getting on at the end of Rogue One. And the first thing Vader says, if this is a consular ship, then where's the ambassador? And, like, the end of Rogue One, like, well, I think Vader just killed him, honestly.
Right, like, and then the way they blast out of there, it's like, if Vader's like, why would he even, when they're like, this is a, you know, consular ship, and it's like, yeah, I just saw you blast out of the, you know, we know. Like,
and I hate nitpicking the end of Rogue One, because it's not only the best part of the movie, it's one of the best endings to any Star Wars movie. It's really fun to watch, from a fun point of view. Not necessarily the CG Leia, but the Vader stuff. It's really fun. I like it. But as soon as they get on the blockade runner, they go lightspeed. So unless the Empire already had the track you through lightspeed technology, you know, how are they going to catch them at the beginning of A New Hope anyway? the end of the film isn't Leia saying there's hope and taking her hood off. It's that blockade runner going through lightspeed and being, peace, we've got the plans, we're out of here. So,
and
at
there's
that
really
point,
no hope. Like, it's so funny they talk about, like, hope, and it's like, I mean, honestly, the situation was so dire that she would have been like, oh my god, get the fuck out of here, we're gonna die. Because, like, if you think about it, the whole Star Wars thing would have ended. Luke would be staying on for another season on the fucking moisture farm if the one Imperial officer, random guy, he's responsible for the downfall of the Empire.
Not the
when
life
he
forms?
says, like, oh, there's no life forms on that. He's like, hold your fire. It's like, dude, you just destroyed the Empire. The chain of events, like the butterfly, starting the hurricane on this side of the world. He's just like, hold your fire.
Yeah.
And it's like, if he hadn't said hold your fire, Luke would have been a moisture farmer. Like, Leia would be dead.
If it was Empire, Vader would have killed him. Because Vader killed everyone that made mistakes in Empire. I just watched it the other day, and he ruthlessly is like...
he might have killed him.
Might have.
It was off screen, and he never saw it.
You're right, though. That is the one moment... Does the Family Guy... I feel like they referenced that moment.
My favorite part of the Family Guy was when... Han is... Like, the scene where Han's like, it's like, I don't believe in the Force, and Luke's like, you don't believe in the Force? It's like, it was like something that you just learned about like 5 minutes ago, and like now you're talking shit to me, like,
Yeah. And he's like, I got this Kabbalah bracelet. I'm a schmuck.
Oh, that's another thing about like the prequel gripes is like the little practice ball and the blast thing on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
And it was like, Stiklasa was like, oh, they just like, I thought he just, like, Obi-Wan was just on the ship and just made an impromptu Jedi training session, like, with things that were just available.
That's right.
And then in the prequels, George Lucas, stupidly, has, like, the little kids doing that same exercise, and it's like, so how did Han Solo have these, like, Jedi training things? It's like, oh,
I didn't think about that. If you don't believe in
Jedi... So dumb, like, yeah, why would he have these, like, training tools that they used to train Jedi kids with?
It should have been just a random thing on the ship.
It's basically, like, a little practice, target or something for that you probably like, oh, I set my blaster on stun and I practice fighting against this thing, and it it's like, oh, it tickles me. When
we just happen to have a remote and a blast shield,
right? And the blast shield is for something else, like for going through something or
don't
like,
blind yourself. And the other thing, probably
it's like welding or something. Like, oh, if you're going like we're gonna fly, into this like really bright like near a star or something, and you have to put on a thing. It's like when you wear the eclipse glasses. Mm-hmm. It's just something that, like that Han Solo had, but has nothing to do with the Jedi. And George Lucas is just like, I have to literally use everything.
I think in many ways, I think you're right, and in many ways, it's funny to think of people that look at, like, Empire is so good, it kind of ruined everything. Because if it wasn't, you'd have been like, it ended with A New Hope. The movie had a perfect ending, except for Vader survived, so you wonder... I mean, it's awesome that he survived. But really, like, there could have been fans that were like, oh, fuck this trilogy. A New Hope. I'm just going to consider it a standalone movie. I'm going to ignore the other two.
Honestly, like, A New Hope kind of is, like, in a way. Like, it's just like, it's a different type of animal. Mm-hmm. And there are some things that I didn't like. Like, all the Star Wars movies have used the whole wash, segue to a different scene where this like washes over the screen, like,
Oh, A New Hope doesn't do it?
No, it does. But I'm saying all of them do. Like, but right. Empire Strikes Back, it like gets a little crazy. And I know Lawrence Kasdan directed and stuff, but like, especially like between the Luke and Vader, like father son, where they're communicating the Force at the end, and it's like it goes back to Luke and then Vader, and it's like it goes like oh like, and I'm like it's a little clunky. Like watching it now, I'm like that's a little clunky.
I guess so. I mean, that's kind of
it's the cinematography-wise. I'm like, I don't like that.
That's right after when he's laying in bed, he just got his robotic...
His hand is cut off. And
peck on the lips from Leia.
It's basically exposition to, like, hammer home, like, this is real. Like, he is his father. Like, I know you might be sitting there, it's like, is he really his father, or is he lying to him? Mm-hmm. And the movie is telling you, no. Make no doubt about it. This is a real thing. So it's like, son, it's like, because it starts with
Luke calls him father,
father, and then son. So it's like one word exposition that they have these really quick cuts to, and I'm like, it's just it's a little like ham-fisted or whatever. That's the wrong term, but you know what I mean. It's a clumsy. That's a good term. It's a little clumsy,
I could see you feel that way. I do like the music at the end of that movie.
Oh yeah, I mean everything.
Like it's
don't get me wrong.
But no,
That's a tiny
I'll watch it again and
the nitpicks. And actually, Empire Strikes Back. All of the Star Wars movies have nitpicks, of course.
Sure.
Empire Strikes, but they don't all have continuity errors and giant plot holes.
Jeez.
But another nitpick for Empire Strikes Back is it has the 2 worst acting scenes, if you don't count the love scenes in Attack of the Clones. Which is really not the actor's fault. The dialogue was so bad that, I don't even blame Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman. I think that they're both fine actors.
They did the best with what they had.
Yeah, it was just the dialogue was so stuffy and ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And, nobody could tell Emperor George Lucas that he wasn't wearing clothes,
So what are these Empire scenes? I'm curious.
The 2 Empire scenes with the terrible acting, the lines weren't bad, but it's when they're explaining attack plans, and they show not when Carrie Fisher's doing it, but when there's one, and I think they're both on Hoth too. One is about when they're after the battle and they're going to take off, and the guy's explaining the ion cannon and all that stuff. And then the other one is but it's just it's not a major character explaining it. It's in the kind of almost in the background, but the guy, and there's another one. It's very brief. Yeah. It's but both of those scenes happen on Hoth, and it's just some random trooper that you just don't even think about.
Oh, no.
And they deliver the dialogue. It's so cheesy. It's they just it's almost like the person delivering the dialogue. I'm oh my god, that's it's such bad acting that it would be if somebody was coming to audition and you were oh, this guy's terrible, we're not going to hire him, and they just went with that take. It's kind of jarring. I just never noticed it before, but when I watched it the other night, I was oh,
right.
That is awful.
And
there's 2 scenes on Hoth.
I have to watch.
The guy's explaining. It's oh, you can go. I forget. I don't even remember what he says. Bad. But yeah, it's such bad acting. And I know that I believe in Star Wars where he's just we can't do good against that Death Star, the farm boy. But he, it's not great acting, but it's competent where it's you could believe he's some hick from Planet X or whatever.
Oh yeah,
because there's a scene in Star Wars that's similar where it's just some guy and then Leia's it's whatever. But yeah, there's a line.
I've liked pretty much all of Luke's performances. I think Mark Hamill is a unique actor, and the way and especially in the original trilogy, or especially A New Hope and Empire, Mark Hamill he looks younger than he is, and he's more mature than he looks. So even though he's playing this, whoa, what's that flashing? I care. All that stuff. In real life, he's 6 years older than that character. Smart.
He's perfect for it.
And he understands the Flash Gordon kind of movie even better than... him and Lucas, I think, are the 2 main people that really understood the pulp Flash Gordon type of vibe that the film was going for. You see early interviews with Mark Hamill, he's I didn't expect it to be successful. This successful, how could you? But what I did expect it to be is successful for kids, with kids. He acts it like it's for a kid's movie, but he knows he's the kid. He knows he's the youngest.
Honestly,
if he doesn't play it like a gosh farm boy, but it just doesn't work. And he knows
I agree with you, and let me tell you the most, the part that makes me agree with that the most is when that whole gosh optimism, golden boy, farm boy thing, where he really played it to kids. The scene that really drives that home is when he has that that dead, jaded, 50-year-old man whose life has been ruined when he's looking at his foster parents, his aunt and uncle's corpses that are burnt cinders, they've been annihilated. His whole life has been totally destroyed, and he's that dead look in his face. I was this is really for the kids.
Yeah.
He really nailed it.
You're right. That's the moment. People praise that moment too for being, one of the best cinematic moments in history, and
it's what proves to me that it's a kids' movie. Whenever, because I used to use that argument to defend the prequels when I was stupid. And I would say, it's a kid's movie. Oh, you don't like Jar Jar? It's a kid's movie. Remember the burning corpses? Remember that? When the corpses were burning? There was smoke coming from the corpses of those characters that you kind of got to know.
And Empire has a lot of dark scenes, too. Right. I think, I remember as a kid when with Han Solo in the carbonite, and when it just slams on the ground, that thud, and you see him as a metal wall ornament, and Leia has this horrified look on her face. She can't even look at it. She's holding on to Chewie. Like, they don't have any moments like that in The Last Jedi.
No.
Like, nothing that takes the time to be that serious.
Although, to be fair, like, Return of the Jedi was a lot more kid-friendly. The part I'm thinking of specifically is when they implied the continued sexual assault of Leia by a giant slug with his tongue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh yeah, that, like, you know, he's like implying like, hey, there's gonna be a lot of sexual assault going on, and then she's there for a long time, for weeks, and I'm just like, yeah, that's like for the kids.
Is it weeks?
I mean, it's at least days, if not weeks. I mean, it's a long time. Because who knows? Okay,
I always thought it was like one day.
Okay, so that night, so maybe Luke shows up the next morning.
Still
so she's there one night, but he still does the tongue thing, and she's there all night. Even if Luke showed up the next day, she's there that night.
Is that when 3PO says, "Oh, I can't bear to watch"?
Yes, it is.
Oh God.
Yeah, the rape scene, like the implied "I'm going to rape you" scene. Like, remember that one? I remember, you know, if you're a kid, it kind of flies over your head. You're just like, oh, he's gross, because you don't really think about sexual things, you know. Unless you're like a serial killer or something.
And some people, there is a group of people that really don't like the Leia slave stuff at all. But other people argue that, well, a strong character like Leia, a strong female character, you know, you do that to her and you're going to get choked to death by a chain. You're going to die a horrible death.
It shows that there are bad people. It's just like if you watch Shawshank Redemption, like, oh, Tim Robbins is the big star. He's this innocent victim bank guy who's some guy murdered his wife and he got sent to prison and he's in prison and he's like raped for the first half of the movie. The whole thing is about him being raped by these guys. And it's like, I'm so, like, they had a strong actor, an innocent, strong actor like Tim Robbins, and just to show him repeated the rape. I mean, honestly, I am just appalled that they would show him. You know, it's like,
it's part of the story.
Yeah, it's part of the, it's a fucking story. Like, if you just showed if it's just gratuitous, it's like this, you know, it's like, I'm going to make this movie, and it's like, what's it going to be about? It's like, I don't know, but I want to have a rape scene, and then I'm going to build a movie around that. Then, yeah, you're a creep, and that's gross. But if it's, like, to show that, like, oh, this person's really bad, it's like, oh, could you believe they showed the Holocaust in that Schindler's List movie? It's outrageous. It's like, no, that's the point. Hello? You know, it's not like he was like, I just want to make this Holocaust movie with all these Jews burning up. No. It's like, no, he's making a movie, like, and that's a very powerful movie. And
yeah, you know, Spielberg was super sensitive because of his background, and I believe for the Jews, they used...
What do you mean background? Is Spielberg Jewish?
He is Jewish. Yeah, they did not use people of Jewish descent to play Jews in the film. I believe they were Ukrainian, because it was too close for home for him. And I just found out yesterday... watching a panel about Indiana Jones that he at one point decided that he no longer wanted any Nazis in his films. Like, he was done with anything related to the Holocaust at all. So he stopped using Nazis in Indiana Jones. I think they're in the first one, right? There's Nazi Germany.
No, part 3. There's Nazis in Last Crusade, which came out in like 1990.
Seriously? Okay, I must have
remember, he's like, that's how we say Hitler's in it. Hitler signs the book. Like, basically, Indiana Jones is like in Germany, and they're marching around doing the book burning. And Indiana Jones has his father's like book showing where the Holy Grail is, and like he's like, oh shit, I'm going to be found out.
He gets shoved up to the front.
Yeah, and then Hitler's like signs it.
That's a great scene.
Yeah, well, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want Nazis in my movies. He literally had Hitler signing Indiana Jones' dad's book.
Obviously, I need to listen to what I listened to, because I thought there was something about...
And there's the famous scene where it's like, the lady kisses him and it's like, that's how we say goodbye in Austria. And then the guy's like, that's how we say goodbye in Germany.
Right. And when Indiana Jones says to his dad, like, how did you know she was a Nazi? He's like, she talks in her sleep.
Right.
Which I found out was improvised.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
And I guess the crew loved it so much, and
they're
like, we're keeping that. So, well,
so there were Nazis in Last Crusade,
absolutely.
But the fourth one had communists. And to be fair, it did take place in the 50s.
You know what? That's
so
what it is.
Be Nazis.
That's what it is. It's the fourth one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, but it's like Harrison Ford was so old, they couldn't have placed it in the 40s. Like, it wouldn't make sense. Like, he's way older. Like, how did it only 1 year pass, you know?
Yeah, and my mind doesn't want to remember the fourth one at all. So any trivia knowledge associated with the fourth one, I'm going to apply it to one of the other 3 movies, because who wants to remember the fourth one? So it's definitely worse than The Last Jedi, but no, I mean it didn't disrespect Indiana Jones. It just wasn't a good movie. Yeah, that's the fourth one. Yeah,
you know what's crazy too? Like I saw it in the theater, and I was just like I don't literally I don't remember anything about it except for like it's so crazy. I remember, like where he's like hiding in a fridge. And then I also, there's one other scene, or not even a scene. That's the scene that I remember is he's hiding in a fridge. I remember there's like a chase through a jungle. And like, I was like, there was an alien thing, but I'm like, I don't even remember what that was about or what was going on. But here's the thing I remember the most about it. The feeling I was just like, oh wow, like Shia LaBeouf is all grown up. That's literally like my only, I'm just like,
wow.
And then I was thinking the whole time watching it, I'm just like, oh, they're going to try to like spin this off and do Shia LaBeouf, Indiana Jones Jr. stuff or whatever. That's all I was thinking the whole time. And then I don't even remember I don't remember if I thought it was good or bad. Like it's just not memorable.
Did I only saw the one?
It's like Iron Man 3. I know I saw it. And Iron Man 3 might be way better than Indiana Jones. Don't get me wrong. You know
what's funny? If Iron Man 3
I don't remember either though.
If it was good, have you ever heard anyone say the Iron Man trilogy? No, because you can have 3 movies, but it implies that they go together, that they're good. And Iron Man doesn't get the honor of being called a trilogy.
Well, it's funny because there's now a Thor trilogy too. It's like they do all fit together. So they fit together because they all fit in that Marvel thing. However, it's a little disjointed because it's like Iron Man is in Iron Man 1, that's the first one. And then he's in like all these other movies, and then Iron Man 2. And then he's in all these other movies, and Iron Man 3. So it's like, it all blurs together. It's like the Marvel universe. It's like a TV show.
There's a pretty organized fan base that I think they have a very legit order in which you should watch them and stuff. And,
Oh yeah, superhero. Basically, it's like, this Marvel Universe superhero thing.
Where do I start?
And I can't believe that there would be somebody that would go on the internet and be like, you should watch them in this order.
Jeez, there are some people that argue you should watch Star Wars movies in a different order.
Yeah, I mean, if I told people, right now, if somebody was like, hey, I want to watch Star Wars movies, what order should I watch them in? I'm like, you should watch Episode 4 first, and then Episode 5, and then after that you watch Episode 6, and then you stop watching them.
No Rogue One? Well, what if you had to...
I would say,
you had to show them all
I'd say if you like those 3, if you're really into them, I'd be like, you could watch Rogue One if you want, but it's not going to be the same. It's like, if you really like the world that they've built and the setting,
sure.
If you're in love with those characters, if you like Luke, Han, if you like Luke, Han, Leia, you can skip Rogue One. But if you like the world that they built, the whole, I'm really into the Star Wars, then you can watch Rogue One, because it's good, it's good fodder for, that world.
It's a nice side story.
Right. And then if you like cliffhangers that don't pay off, but you're just into, a mystery that has no payoff at all, you'll never find out the answers to the mystery, Force Awakens is actually not that bad. I mean, it's a rehash of New Hope, but it's a soft reboot with shitty world building. But other than that, it's actually an enjoyable movie. And if you like those first 3, it kind of harkens back to I got those goosebumps and stuff. Which I thought about it. There were a few emotional parts in Last Jedi, when Luke meets with R2. And
I love that scene.
Yeah, and when at the end when Luke comes back and has his moment with Leia, it's all involving the old characters though. So it's it has nothing to do with Rian Johnson or anything. It's those moments were Rian Johnson free moments. It was characters interacting that I liked. But and the way that I think Rian Johnson just really respectfully handled Chewbacca, I was just it hit me right in the nostalgia spot. I was just man, he that must have been Rian Johnson's favorite character. Because he was just great in the movie. I was gonna say Force Awakens. What the fuck was I saying? Oh my god. Damn it. See,
that there were
a stupid Chewbacca joke. And
that there were emotional scenes.
Yeah. There were those were the few emotional scenes, but I never got goosebumps or this is amazing or I really didn't have that feeling. I sort of did when the whole Luke ending thing where he fights Kylo, and that was kind of but again, I include that in the whole Leia ending scene. So basically both scenes involve Luke. Luke and R2D2. Luke at the end when he confronts Kylo and he sees everybody and people are like, "Oh, look at this!" Like, those were the scenes that like had a emotional impact. That's something beyond my control, by the way. I'm not saying like, like, oh, I'm a nostalgia fanboy, but I'm just like, you're sitting there and you have an emotional reaction. You can't control it; it just happens, And that's the only time. The whole rest of the movie, I'm just watching it like Iron Man. I'm just like, okay, I'm just dead inside. What is this? Like, oh, funny, whatever. But like those scenes, like, wow, that had an emotional impact. Force Awakens was different. Like Force Awakens actually had a lot of like scenes, not even a lot, but just like at the end in the snow when Rey, who I believed was Luke's daughter, when Rey like when the lightsaber comes to her and they start playing the Star Wars music, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is like I'm a little kid again. This is what we were hoping for, with the prequels, like that feeling that Star Wars. It had that Star Wars feeling.
It's a great moment.
Yeah, like J.J. Abrams like did a good job of like capturing a Star Wars feeling. It's not the best.
It's pretty much the perfect pitch. You know what I mean? Like, and all the other person had to do was hit the ball and not foul it up.
Just like a single in the infield.
Yeah.
Like, just don't. Yeah, like I mean, it was a swing and a miss. Like, really.
Absolutely.
You didn't even make contact.
Oh yeah, no, it's terrible. And not only that, but like the catcher, the umpire guy, like missed it, and it went back. And they awkwardly.
Well, you know why the umpire missed it? Because he was cut in half.
God damn it.
Oh, that's the Empire.
That's the
oh my god, that's
Snoke. Damn it, yeah, the Snoke.
Yeah.
You know what, there's one thing, before I forget, there's one tiny little thing I want to mention. And I don't think it means anything, but Rey said that Luke died with peace and purpose or whatever when she's, picking everyone up on the Falcon to get out of there, the last, 12 rebels or resistance. But she's, the only one out of that group that didn't see Luke show up. She wasn't there. She didn't see him.
Oh.
She lifted some rocks with the Force and got them on the thing. Everyone else saw him show up as a legend, quote, actually being there. Leia's the only one that really knew it was a ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Leia's the only one that really knew he was a ghost or a projection because of...
Yeah, but she felt his presence and sensed it because she's pretty powerful.
She felt him die.
Right, she's really powerful, so she kind of knew what was going on just by being there. It's kind of like Yoda, where he's outside the cave, but he knows that Luke just cut off Vader's face and it was his own face, and he's like,
It doesn't change anything.
Knows,
but it's just it's almost like...
Because she's probably more powerful than Yoda was.
Oh, for sure.
A 900-year-old Yoda can't compare to her Force abilities.
It would have been so nice to get some explanation for her power. It absolutely would have. It would have been so nice. And now 9 has to, or people already are jumping off the Rey train because it's not explained why she's so powerful. And I used to defend her. I'm like, well, Ada will explain it. Ada will explain it for the last 2 years.
Maybe she's a chosen one that was created by the Force.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, I like the character of Rey. And so it upsets me that they are making her worse, making her less interesting,
less relatable.
Because it's to me, when I was a little kid, it was cool that oh, you don't mess with Hulk Hogan, and he's wagging his finger oh no, and I'm he's always gonna win in the end. He's so good, nobody can beat the Hulkster.
Yeah,
and it's fine when you're 8, but as an adult, you're just it's cool that she's this super powerful. It makes me feel like a kid again watching this super powerful person. Male or female, who cares? I don't care. It's a cool feeling. However, it's they're basically... They should have left it a mystery as to why she's so... make her the most powerful being that ever has existed in Star Wars universe. More powerful than Yoda, more powerful than... Fine. But either have, a reason or leave it a mystery. But just to be it's just some random lady that was born to these random people... And there's no reason why this person would have all this knowledge and power. It's stupid.
You know what's funny? I put a lot of thought, and not fan theory, fan fiction stuff, but I put a lot of thought into the little moments in Force Awakens. I used to think that Luke Skywalker was the one that put a compressor on the hyperdrive to make sure that, I guess I was reading too much into it. Okay, I'm well, Luke dropped her off as a kid
Right.
And then to make sure no one can take the Falcon and find him for some reason, because Han didn't know there was a compressor on it.
Right.
I'm definitely getting into fan fiction territory because Han, I think, explains like that the Falcon changed all these hands and like, well, who got it from this person? He's like, okay, and finally it's in the junkyard. But in my own mind, I'm like, yeah, Luke put a compressor.
That's
on
another
Falcon.
not
Like,
great scene with the CGI monster and the two gangs cornering Han.
I try not to think about that one.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's the Canto Bite of Force Awakens. Not nearly as bad as Canto Bite. Don't get me wrong.
Oh.
And it's shorter, so it's shorter, and it has more to do with the plot.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like that's how you do a bad scene that where you're like, I don't really like that much.
Right.
It's like it's a short thing.
Like
it's necessary for the plot. You have some character development because like Rey and Finn are like it shows that she cares about him, but she doesn't want him to know. Mm-hmm. It's like building these relationships, like a great writing.
What if it was instead of Rathnars, it was Rancors? We're hauling Rancors. You know what I mean?
Honestly, though, that would be worse. Like,
you don't see Rancors?
No. Well, because it's like it's.
You can't do anything.
There's too many like Easter eggs and.
Plus, you can't do anything in a new Star Wars film where the toy already exists because you need a new toy. Right. So you can't possibly, even the Falcon has to look different, so you have to buy a new Falcon every time.
Right.
The X-wings look different, and the AT-AT has a gray.
I think
side instead,
like honestly,
or you know what I mean, the tan color.
I think Disney Star Wars is just fan reaction. Like honestly, because if you think about it, the most well-known fan reaction to the prequels is Plinkett. Like that's widely responsible for like basically articulating a lot of fans' kind of feelings that they had, but they didn't quite know or articulate it. Like, and Disney reacted to that like almost like Force Awakens is almost a complete reaction to that. Because like the prequels didn't feel like Star Wars, they made it feel like Star Wars. It's New Hope. And then like all these other things were cool. Real sets, real models, like real, things like less CGI. There's some, but like way less. Like all these reactions, like and Plinkett jokes about it in his Force Awakens review, and he's just like, "Where's my check, Disney?" Because he shows like all these bullet points that he had of how to fix.
Oh, and they did.
And they did all those, and it's like, "Where's my check?" And so it's like they reacted to Plinkett and were like, this is what the fans want, we're going to do this. And with Last Jedi, it was a reaction, but it was the opposite. It was like, like Rian Johnson was like, all the fans want, like, this is what they're all speculating about. And it's like, I'm going to do none of those and make it like all boring stuff to fuck them over.
You're right. When the first thing I did when I got out of Last Jedi, I'm like, well, I feel bad for anyone who wanted to raise parents for, or anyone who's looking forward to Luke, or anyone who was looking forward to what Luke was going to say about the lightsaber, or anyone who was looking forward to Snoke doing something cool,
or anyone who was looking forward to the movie.
Yeah, exactly. and then actually those are the four things. But my first thought was, man, that Canto Bite stuff was terrible. That was my first thought. It wasn't like, oh man, Luke's dead or anything. It was like, man, that whole Canto Bite stuff did not feel like Star Wars at all. I'm like, that needs to go.
Yeah, my first thought was I didn't like the movie that much, and I was like, I think it's because the guy behind me was like really tall, and he kept bumping into my chair, and it was like pissing me off. And we went at 8:45 in the morning, and it was like freezing cold outside, like waiting to get in. I was like, fuck, this is freezing. And then we get in there, and then the guy is like, I hate big crowds, and like the guy's bumping me, and I'm just like, and then the movie, and I'm just like. And I was like, maybe I didn't like it because of the setting. I'll go see it again when there's less. Yeah, like, so I was like, had a bad time anyway.
I didn't know that.
But when I saw it the second time, it was like, there were less people around, and I was the disappointment of it had like I had already absorbed it. It's like if somebody like surprises you by punching you in the stomach, it's worse than if they're like, all right, I'm going to punch you in the stomach again. Get ready. It's not going to hurt as much.
Right.
So it's the same thing.
Because they're not diverting your expectations.
Right. Exactly.
I think it can all come down to Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder being a metaphor for the way Rian Johnson handled everything that was given to him. And not to say he was like written in a box and he had to do things a certain way, but he literally he could have done a lot of stuff with those.
It was so wide open. You could take it a million different ways.
Exactly, but he chose to take it none. He just ignored the film. And the thing is, like,
he nipped everything in the bud.
What he did. And
with the most boring way possible.
What kind of strikes me is that it looks and sounds like Star Wars, and you have familiar characters, so there's all this, you want to like it so bad. You're like this Luke Skywalker. There's John Williams music in the background. He's got this glorious, like, gray hair, and he's holding his original lightsaber, and his mechanical arm looks cool. He's got a cool look on his face, and someone fucking had to edit that, and they're like, I'm gonna take this worst scene where he throws his lightsaber over his shoulder, and I'm gonna add the most glorious like John Williams music to it, and then the music just cuts when he like throws it over. Like someone had to, they cried themselves to sleep when they edited that at night because it's just. Yeah,
it's funny because like after watching it 2 times, I actually didn't mind the Luke stuff. Like, the direction that he went, like, I was like, it's weird and it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm like, well, maybe he's trying something different, but then, like, basically, like, on first, like, I'm not upset with it, like, I wasn't as upset with it as, like, at first, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, it's like, I wasn't like, he's drinking the milk, like, I just didn't really care about that kind of stuff, and, like, even throwing the lightsaber over, like, but it's just the more you think about it, like, it doesn't really make sense.
No.
And so it's like, yeah, it was something different that I didn't expect. So it's like if somebody tells a joke and it's like, oh, I didn't expect that, but it's like, but actually my grandma's a nice lady and I don't like you insinuating that about her. It's like, so it's like the joke was funny when you said it, but it's like, hey, don't talk about my grandma at her funeral. Like,
right.
It was funny, I laughed, but that's fucked up. Yeah. And it's kind of like that. It's like if somebody said a joke about, somebody at their funeral and you laugh, but you're like, I'm pissed about it though. Like, I'm mad that you said that joke, but it was funny when you said it. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
So I have that feeling of it, where it's like, it's like, dude, it's not funny when I just laughed at it.
Right.
But that's how I felt about that whole thing.
It's dumb. It's just.
But I never was in love with it, and I always thought it was stupid that he was going to kill Ben. Like, that was always dumb.
Oh man.
But the other stuff I didn't mind as much.
Film.
I think what it is that the movie is so stupid and boring. That, like, the parts with Luke were, like, the only good parts. So, like, even though it wasn't the Luke you wanted to see, it was at least watchable. Where it's, he's joking around, and it's, like, you don't really want, like, the cartoony, silly Luke that, like, doesn't give a shit, and he's, like, fucking with... it's, like, it's kind of weird, but it's, like, that's the only part where I'm just, like, I can actually watch this movie and be somewhat entertained, because I know that guy from, the other movies.
Oh, yeah, and he did such a great job.
Yeah, like, all the new characters were garbage. And then, like, the characters that J.J. Abrams created and kind of, like, had some characterization. Right. Like I was telling you, even that crappy scene in Force Awakens, there was some character growth. Like, Rey showed that she secretly cared about Finn but didn't want him to know. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, there's some kind of tension. Like, maybe they like each other. Building that, character building. These are people that are three-dimensional, and I'm getting into this thing. In Force Awakens, Last Jedi, basically, like, Rian Johnson just sucks at doing characters. Like, there was not really any, like, I mean, Poe had, like, a long thing, but it was all stupid, but, like, Finn and Rey, like, the two, in my mind, the stars of the first movie and stuff, like, he just, like, I guess he hated them, or I don't even know, like, or he just sucks at writing, is what it is, like, obviously, because he just, like, didn't do shit with them, like, there was, like...
He didn't, I mean, and in his defense, like, the film starts with Finn unconscious on the base before you see him on the ship. They transport him on there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it starts with Rey, somewhere else completely on an island with Luke. So they're very far apart.
Yeah, and he did show that, like, he had the thing, like, when he woke up, he's like, I gotta find Rey.
Yeah.
On second thought,
and then
like...
there's the moment where Rey says, what should I tell him? And Chewie says something you don't know, and it's just like that, right? Doesn't you say
that's perfect?
That's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, again, though, see, it's the laziest thing you can do. Because it's like, Rian Johnson's like, oh, I want to have something profound and amazing. What's a good writing? And it's like, I'll just fucking make Chewbacca say it, and then no one, so I don't have to write it.
He probably wrote all the vowels in there. And just
he wrote that on the way to the meeting with Kathleen Kennedy, where it's like, the script's done, I promise. And he's like, fuck, I gotta do the scene. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. Chewbacca, it's done.
He probably loves the holiday special because he can just,
Yeah.
You can write. You could write the opening scene in many different ways and just whatever there's no subtitles obviously, so whatever the Wookiees are saying, you can decide. So to him, that's like the best Star Wars movie because it's a choose your own adventure script.
Yeah, it's just lazy writing. It's like, oh, I don't want to, like, it's antagonistic lazy writing too. It's like, I'm going to choose the most boring thing and this is going to be really fucking like. It's almost like, is he trying to be like artsy fartsy with a major fail? Because it's like, it basically is shitty Marvel movie. And I'm like, because if he was trying to go like artsy fartsy, where it's like I'm going to defy expectations and make everything the worst possible thing, and it's still a good movie, like it didn't work.
And people love, and I almost fell into this, like, because I went to this kind of weird wave. The first time I saw it, I was in shock. The second time I saw it, I liked it a little more, and then the third time I watched it, I kind of almost liked it a little more, but then I left the theater and thought about it after the third viewing.
Ooh,
and I was like,
shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have thought about it. And I was like, that was terrible. And then I saw it the fourth time, and it confirmed my suspicions that it was. And you should, Star Wars movies are meant to be watched over and over again, but it should never be an excuse to justify being, well, it's only good if you see it more than once. It's better the second time.
Right.
If it's shit, it's shit. And at the end of the day, like, the movie was just it's shit. It really is. And I'm getting more and more offended the more I think about all the things.
Yeah, but like cult classics that are bad, like they're bad not because of giant plot holes and things that don't make sense. Like they're bad because, like, I'm talking about cult classics, not like B movies that are shitty and people like them because they're shitty. I mean, like, just like cult classic movies are usually good. It's just like the special effects are so terrible that people are like, oh look, it's cute. They tried to do a movie and it sucked, Or like things like that, and you watch it over and over, and you're like, but the story's great, the characters are great, it's just they've low budget, they didn't have a lot to work with. Things like that, and it becomes this like cult classic or whatever. Or it's like a different weird cinematography, or like there's some weird effect or something, but it's not like something totally wrong with it. But like the point is that like usually when you watch it over and over, it gets better. Mm-hmm. And it's like I feel like it doesn't, like like this movie. I feel like the more you would watch it, the more you'd be like, God, the errors are... Because even, like, Empire Strikes Back, I've seen it 8 trillion times, but, like, I just watched it again for the first time in years last night, and I was just like, ooh, that was bad acting, and I'm like, oh, I don't like the way that was edited. Yeah. So it's, like, little things that you nitpick, every,
You see things for the first time you never saw before.
Right. But overall, I'm like, this movie is very good.
It is very good. All 3 of the originals are very good. And
right.
I think Return of the Jedi is also very good. But
even Force Awakens. I have nitpicks, but it's not a bad movie.
Exactly.
There's character development.
I think it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
I think it's more than good. I think it's very good. Yeah. It did its job, and...
Yeah. I liked it. I mean, it's not like my favorite Star Wars movie. It's like I still like the original trilogy better than it, but I thought it was very good.
Yeah. Oh, and before I forget, one thing I wanted to add is that when you were describing cult classics, you were describing the exact opposite of Force Awakens. Oh, excuse me, of The Last Jedi without knowing it. You said it's basically, it gets better over time. It's low budget, but it's really good to watch.
Oh, yeah. Because it's
low
got a
budget,
good story and
the
good
effects
characters.
are really bad.
Yeah,
the effects are terrible, but the story's good, and it's such a solid script you can look past the effects. But here the effects are so good and such a beautiful movie, it takes a minute to see past how beautiful it looks and how good it sounds to realize that the script is garbage.
Right.
And not like the script, like the dialogue is garbage, like it's the story.
Yeah.
And the potential. It's
yeah. Like Willow. Willow is a very niche movie that was like, it had a big budget and big special effects for the time, although, it was very early CGI, so it's predated the CGI effects. Mm-hmm. But for the time it had a big budget and it actually made money. Like, a lot of people think it was a flop, but it really wasn't. Like, they spent like $22 million and it made like $44 million or something. So it made a profit. Yeah. Like, those numbers I just pulled out of my ass. They totally wrong. But I know that it made a profit. Like, people think of it as like a bomb is something where you lose money. Right. This thing actually made a profit. Like, it defied expectations by not making as much as they.
I don't think it had a toy line, did it?
No, I don't think so. There was a Nintendo game. There was a board game. There were a lot of like picture books, things like that, but it wasn't like marketed. There could have been like a toy line that I just didn't know about. Like, I know there was a board game because I owned it, and there was a Nintendo game because I owned that.
Because I own like every other Val Kilmer toy.
Yeah, but the story and the characters are amazing, and it was co-written. Like, George Lucas, basically George Lucas wrote the story. Mm-hmm. Somebody else wrote the screenplay. And that makes all the difference. A collaboration. That's why it was good. like thinking back, like George Lucas is just not that great of a writer. He's imaginative and stuff, but like, so I'm glad that he just wrote the screenplay. But that's my, and it's not really a cult classic because that was like a giant Hollywood production with giants of the industry, directed by Ron Howard and written by George Lucas, and it had James Horner did the fucking soundtrack, and it had state of the art industrial light and magic. So I'm like, what a niche cult classic. Like nobody's. It's like Pink Flamingos. It's like it's obviously not that, but it's But in my mind, it's a cult classic.